Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of That's My Time. I'm your host, Greg Aidala. I hope your 2023 is off to a good start and you're enjoying life and doing all positive things. I'm really excited about today's guest. I have one of my friends joining me who just wrote a book. I'm very excited to share that with you. Before we do that, let's just get right into the sponsors who make this show possible. First up is QUAIL Auto Sales. That's my family's auto sales business located in Albany, New York. And this year, we're celebrating our 80th year. We're very excited about that. Also, Swag Island Tees. That's my friend Ed Stevens. If you want a custom t-shirt made for your business or personal pleasure, feel free to reach out to him and he'll do anything that you'd like. Also, Coach Me Greg. Those are my professional coaching services. If you're in need of that or your business is in need of some management efficiency, feel free to reach out. Also, Next Evolution Media. That's my friend Bobby Chase. I've been working with him for about 10 years. And he does a lot of great film work for corporate and individual work and editing, all of that stuff. Feel free to reach out to him. All the links to those businesses can be found in the comment section below. All right, so I'm really excited for today's episode. I have my friend Madison Malloy on the show, and she's an author, a podcast host, a producer, really motivated young lady, and she has a great new book out. It's called Time to Lighten the Fuck Up. And it's a self-help guide with a side of humor. I'm really excited to share this with you and speak with my friend. Let's welcome her. Please welcome Madison Malloy, everybody.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm
how
so
you doing?
excited. I'm good. I'm excited to be on your show.
I am excited that you're here. So thank you
Yay.
very much. How you doing? 2023 off to a good start?
It is.
Yeah,
Not the gym so much, but that's okay because you can always start that day. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
starting today, it's gonna be very good.
100%.
That,
Yeah.
but that's
Well,
the only thing. Other than that, I'm good.
yeah, you look good and you're in good form and I can sense that, and I can also sense it through the book. It seems like you're in a good place, and we've known each other for years with the
Yeah.
comedy scene in New York City through the Friars Club when it was still there, and throughout through a lot of mutual friends. And I think it's great. So let's get into a couple things. I like to have the audience learn a little bit about each guest. So you're in New York City now, but that's via Colorado, yes?
Yeah. So, well, I was in New York City. So now I'm between New York and Denver. After COVID hit, I escaped because it
Yep.
was, kind of a hellhole and came back here. And then I realized that I love New York, but I don't love it more than 5 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Um, main reason, it's very expensive, but
Hmm.
also the taxes are very high. So if I could avoid the New York City taxes, sign me up. So
Yeah.
kind of doing the two states right now, which is great. So I'm currently in Colorado.
Great.
So I'll do a lot of back and forth to New York, but hopefully I'll
Good.
be there a little more in the spring.
Good for you. Colorado's great. Oh, I got something for you. Look, this is in my office. That's Telluride, vintage
Oh,
Telluride.
the
And
one place I've never been in
oh,
Colorado. Well,
if
multiple
I
places, but one of them.
it's stunning.
I've
It
heard that.
Telluride is, put it on your list. It's not easy to get to. It's like this trek, but it's one of my good friends got married out there, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
actually it's one of the places I've been to Colorado a couple times, and that in Telluride is one of the moments that you feel like God.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a
Well,
special place.
you know what else I heard is that the Tellur, one of the mountain ranges, like one of the views, that's the mountains on the can of my favorite beer,
Of
Coors Light.
course, it
So
is. It is. You know what? I'll go back when we get off the air. I'll find the picture. I took pictures of it. I'll send them to you.
perfect.
A
Okay. I was like, I
100%.
gotta see this.
It's cool. It's cool because when you go up, you go about 10,000 feet, and that's when you can see the range. And then obviously can see you go up. Well, we went up another like 5,000 feet to the reception, but they pointed that out to me. They're like, there it is. It's so cool. So I'm glad you brought that up. And you're still kicking it with the Coors Light. I love it.
Yeah, right. I always say I've got Greenwich face with trailer park taste.
That's so great. Well, let's get into
Yep.
it, Madison. Let's get right into it. This book is really good. I read it last
Thank
weekend,
you.
and we have, you know, we've known each other for a while, but I felt like I really got to know you better through this book, because a lot of what you wrote about and what you espouse with your, when you're doing professional talks, a lot rings true and line up with my value system and and the world. What got you to this point? Like, what motivated you to put out the book, and what really inspired you?
So, in the book, I talk about my own struggles with depression and anxiety, which I never had growing up. It didn't really come on strong until I became an artist.
Mhm.
I think it was just a complete, I never really had to struggle. I was always kind of lucky. Things always happened for me. And when I became a comedian, the scarcity mindset came on like a freight train.
Mm,
And then I kept trying to listen to podcasts and read self-help books and do everything I could to break this, because in my mind, my logical mind, I was like, these thoughts are not right. They're holding you back. But
mm,
somehow I just couldn't break it and couldn't get out of it. And so I struggled, and I was constantly like always, trying to find like a temp job or trying to find more gigs. Just life wasn't easy for me. It was always a struggle. And I'm like, I'm in my own way. And when I
mm,
finally figured out how to kind of get out of my own way, which primarily was prayer,
mm,
that's what worked for me, which I talk about how the law of attraction and prayer are so similar, is what I found. Law of attraction wasn't working for me, but the prayer was. And I realized they were very similar because it was believing in something you couldn't see. And I knew if I asked God, it would come and be real. So
mhm,
I needed that to get the law of attraction to kind of work for me. Also, I had a challenge with my hormones. I was able to go to a specialist to get those like figured out, and so part of low testosterone was leading
mm,
to a lot of like just tiredness and not lack of motivation and things of that sort. So, and then finally, like mindset shifts and things I did financially that got me out of where I was. And then I
mm.
thought, like, oh my gosh, if I can conquer this and my whole life has changed and everything I think has changed, I've got to put this in a book, because there's probably so many other people that are struggling that will never get out of their own way, because maybe they don't realize they're in their own way, or they just think that's my life. I'm
Yeah.
just unlucky. And you're not unlucky. It's something you're doing, and these little shifts can help you. And that's with the book. And why I wanted to have a lot of crude references in there too was because I feel like humor allows people to actually remember it,
Mm.
and then they can apply it to their own life. So I
Yeah.
had to put a lot of my personal story in there so they understood why it would, the shifts that I made to make it work.
Yeah. No, and that's great of and true of any book, especially nonfiction. And you are very transparent with that, and it's appreciated, because that's how you're going to connect. And this is what the book is all about, and I think that you mentioned, with faith, and really the genesis, what I picked up from the book is, it was your parents. This is where we're similar. We have a supportive family, right? All families are
Yeah.
perfectly imperfect, but we have supportive families. And it was from the onset with you, because I remember reading the book that your grandparents, especially I believe it was your grandmother, that was huge with investing. And
Yeah.
and it was it she that introduced you to your first love, which was Warren Buffett?
Yes. Well, it wasn't my first love. I mean, first it was Pamela Anderson, but
Ah,
thankfully it
well,
became Warren Buffett.
well, mine was
Uh,
backwards. Mine was Warren Buffett, then Pam Anderson. So.
there you go. Exactly.
And then so let's take the audience here. So, you talk about, with we'll get to faith in a few moments, but your journey is quite unique. So you started with a job on Wall Street, and I believe that was 2005. Yes.
Hmm.
How did that how did that go? Because I know that, even that I remember reading on page 19 that, there was a dare and a bet that you had to eat everything in a vending machine for $1,000, which you did, which you eventually got sick from. But
Yeah.
it was that type of a world, which was, what I've learned, and I have friends, that are, big investors, and that it, it's a it's a sea of craziness on Wall Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much today because of all the rules and kind of restrictions that are
Hmm.
put on these people. I felt like I was kind of in the last really good years of Wall Street, like the stuff that happened when I worked there probably couldn't happen today.
Hmm.
Like all the bets and just the language, but I loved that. I
Yeah.
thought it was great. It was amazing. But yeah, the vending machine thing was crazy because you have to eat one of everything in the vending machine, which means gum, lifesavers, chips, Pop Tarts, and you think it's going to be easy. Like, it's gross. I remember this other sales girl sitting next to me, and she was taking a stapler and smashing the bag of chips so I could basically pour it into water and just chug it. Like, that's how you had to get it down because you couldn't physically do it anymore.
How long did that take you to do, by the way? I just think that's interesting.
You have 9 hours to do it. You have the whole day.
Oh, you had the whole day. Oh, okay.
The
God, I
whole
thought it was
day.
something
But you
crazy.
but also, like, I didn't puke during that time, but I think, like, if somebody said do this again, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna pull the trigger a couple times.
What was the worst part of that? Was it the gum? Because when I read that, I was like, ugh, gum? You ate gum? What was it?
Oh yeah. I think it was just not wanting to eat the crap, and you have to.
Yeah.
You're going from chips to Pop Tarts to Snickers bars to um the TGI Fridays has their own chip brand. Like, those are
Really?
disgusting. Oh yeah. There's everything in there.
Well,
Everything.
I'm
Breath
just
mints, there was breath mints in there.
really. So at least well, your breath must have smelled great for a week after all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
My,
I don't
ugh.
think so, with not with all the other crap,
Oh
right?
yeah, right. The TGIF Fridays and stuff. Oh man. God bless you. Well, you're here to talk about it, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So then this is what I found really, really cool too, because my family was this way. Uh, a lot of people, you get out of college, and then I was doing a lot of artistic work through school. Like, I started playing music in the third grade, and then I was hosting events in high school, and then it bled over like into my senior year of college. And when you tell your family, especially your parents, you're like, well, I have this. And my mother passed away when I was a child, right? And my dad raised all 8 of us on his own. So I had to
Wow.
ask a lot of questions. My mother, we have some of her journal entries. She was a painter. She loved Broadway shows. And that's where I found, that part of my DNA was coming mostly from my mother with the arts. And when you tell family sometimes, I have met, and you probably have too. I know people in our business that are successful. Their parents have never ever seen them perform, or they
Wow.
don't even support them. My family was completely supportive, and that's what I liked really about yours, because your
Yeah.
father was the one that encouraged you to get into stand up. Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes I want to smack him for that, but I'm glad he did, because although I'm not doing exactly what I started doing,
Mhm,
it led me to writing this book, being on your show, creating the content I'm creating. So
mhm.
without comedy, none of this would have happened, and I could have still been at a corporate job, absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And so everything happens for a reason, and sometimes you just have to trust the process.
You do have to trust the process, and it's great that you have to be open to that, because that is
Yeah.
really something for everybody in all walks of life. You've got to stay open to it. I always say, instead of putting up walls, you can put up screens and let it filter, but be open to it, and know that it could lead you to better things, which it has. And I'm really excited that you're on um, the circuit now with public talks, and all that. But I think, it's a key term that you used as well that we speak of in entertainment, which you mentioned on page 23, which is sweat equity. And sometimes you've got to put in, like, Malcolm Gladwell, excuse me, speaks about, the 10,000 hour rule. You've got to put those 10,000 hours in, which is roughly 10 years, to really, you know, get cemented and your feet planted on where
Yeah.
you want to take your next step. And something that you mentioned also is that scarcity mindset. And you talked about at 30 years old that you sold your 401k to double down on yourself. And I think it led you to great things. Would you agree with that? I mean, within yourself?
Yeah, there were moments 5 years after that I regretted it, and, I kept thinking, "Well, you can't look back. You can't assume what it would be," because sometimes you look at, "Oh, if I hadn't done that." But you do things for a reason, and that amount of money is so small compared to what the future holds.
Hmm.
So it's kinda like, you know what? 2 or 3 years of maxed out 401k, it's pennies compared to what you can become. but you have to get out of that, letting go of the past, and also knowing that money is so abundant.
Mm-hmm.
It always has a way of like coming to you if you receive the energy and you're open to it. I actually just saw something that said, this isn't necessarily my book, but I saw
Yeah.
something on Instagram around money that I thought was so cool. So this woman was saying she went to this keynote speech, and this guy came out and he pulled out his wallet and he had all this cash. It was like all these $100 bills. And he like folds it out like a fan and he goes, I love money. This is the greatest thing. And he's like kissing the money. And people in the audience are kind of like, what? Like they were a little bit repulsed. And then he said, some of you probably felt repulsed. You probably thought I wasn't spiritual. You probably thought these negative things about me. He goes, but what if if I had come out with a 5-year-old child and held it up and said, this is my grandson. I just love my grandson. You guys would be like, oh, that's so cute. And you would have none of these feelings. He goes, here's the thing is people, the child is energy and the money is also energy. So a child or anything is not going to go where it's not appreciated or loved. So you have to love and appreciate money the same way you love and appreciate people. It's the same thing. It's just an energy. And so many people repel it and they stay broke. We're talking 99% of the population
Mm-hmm.
because they have these false negative beliefs and they cringe. Maybe when they see somebody driving a Ferrari, they're like, oh, what a pompous ass. You shouldn't think that because money's an energy and you should love it too, because you can actually do more good for the world the wealthier you become.
Yeah.
So think about it that way. Next time you feel afraid of money, you need to say, no, I love money. Money does great things for me. I can help more people if I have money. So I thought it was just a fascinating thing, but it's really like what it kind of clicked in through this book too, in my own experiences, the majority of us are living with this scarcity mindset. There's never going to be enough. We got to put all this stuff away. And you should always invest, but you shouldn't be just putting it in a bank account or investing because you're so fearful it's going to be gone and blah, blah, blah. You have to do it to say, no, I'm going to make it work for me.
Yeah.
So it's all like the mindsets around it that shift. And even like getting another job, like let go of the pride, do what you got to do. Just having that extra money is going to help you think more clearly.
Yep.
And always remember, like, if you really want to change the world, get rich.
Yeah,
It's a change the world.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I honestly sometimes I wish, you never know what people are doing with their money, sometimes it quietly, but I do wish that a lot of people, instead of flaunting it, go and do like real good community stuff. And it's true because I suffered from that myself, in the way of, not money is evil, but in the way of having a big faith background. I was like, I had this disdain toward it for a while in my life, and then the shift came around of saying, well, after doing a couple mission trips around the world, I go, well, no, I'm going to need this to advance and do good and shine that positive light. And it's something that you mentioned too in your book with that scarcity mindset is, and see, you wrote on page 27, it said, your fear keeps you from seeing opportunity when it comes. And I think a lot of people have that fear of money, or what am I going to do with it? Or people are going to think differently. Who cares? In the grand scheme of things, who cares? It's time to lighten the fuck up.
Yeah, and people are going to judge you if you're poor, and they're going to judge you if you're rich. So
that's right.
Wouldn't it be better to be judged for being rich? Yeah.
Yes. And and to that, but you have grace with that, right? And you mentioned this in your book, and it's like pages I've got written between like 20, 28 and 33, where, tips for like a better financial solvency is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people, and, being in that we're in entertainment of sort, because we are, and it's a business, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's just show business. And a lot of people just go after the show. And I espouse to people, don't do that, because if you do that, you're going to flounder faster than you think. It's a business, and you need to treat it like that, in order to have that solvency. And you need to have gratitude, because you mentioned this word too, and I, in my talks and in my writings, I talk about balance. It's so important to have this balance. How do you personally find this balance and this new enlightenment of sort post post being 30 years of age, with your 401ks, and then finding this balance of moving forward and being happy and fulfilled with these new opportunities.
Yeah, so I think balance is a key thing. It's you got to figure out what makes you happy, right? So if making money and work makes you happy, do more of that. If playing with your kids or going out with your friends makes you happy, do more of that. But obviously there needs to be like some sort of healthy balance. And I think why I didn't totally burn out in the comedy space is because I didn't make my whole world comedy. I had friends outside of comedy. I did things outside of comedy. I made sure to take weekends off to have fun and create experiences. So I never got the burnout.
Mhm.
So I think it's important if you do have balance and you're not burned out, you're going to be able to more clearly see opportunities when they come your way. You're not so stuck in like, I have to do this. This is all I can
Mhm.
do. And the more you have balance, the more you're out there doing things, the more you're going to connect with other people that are going to create and bring opportunities to you. It's all about who you're around. You can't just work in an office and expect to meet the world. It's just not going to happen.
That's true. And that leads, something that you mentioned to that point is you talking about passions and reality.
Mhm.
I'm a passionate person, you're a passionate person. And most of our friends, the circle that we're involved in are really successful people. I mean,
Yeah.
and passionate. And, people sometimes think, oh, it's just comedy and this is a joke. I go, no, it's not, because you have to be really smart.
Yeah.
Okay. And in at least the comedy world, in my circle, in my roster, that I've built for 20 years, there's more advanced degrees in my roster than I know in other walks of life.
Yeah.
A
Oh,
hun
absolutely. Because
you
you have to
know?
be so quick and you have to think on your feet. And like, even though you have a set prepared, obviously, you have to be willing to adjust because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And with that, it's just like any walk of life, any business, you have to educate yourself, and you're a big proponent of that. And you mentioned about, oh, I have a note here because you talk about in society that there isn't really educate. I mean, there is, and it's obviously with the internet, you can, and if you're not self-motivated to go find this out, then I don't know what you're doing in life. But there is so much information out there for you. And something that I have, let me preface it this way. At my high school, I set up a scholarship for kids going into the arts. This year will be 7 years, right?
Oh,
And
nice.
they've invited me back to talk to students, just mostly like juniors and seniors, and seeing how they're prepped and have fun with them and share experiences. I've said for some time, and I mean a long time, that there should be, I don't like to use the word should, but I will. Uh, there should be a stock market class taught in high school. Do you agree with that?
Well, 100%. But
Yeah.
there's so many theories, and I think I'm probably right, where it's kind of done on purpose.
Mm,
Teaches you to be a good employee. I mean, to keep the rich richer, we need good workers.
mhm,
So you're not kind of taught to be free. So it's up to you or the parents of the children. The younger you start, the better it is
mhm,
to financially educate your kids. And how do you do this? Well, you teach them the value around money, but you also build excitement around
mhm.
money. And I don't want your people listening to this to be like, "Oh, this girl's all about money, blah 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 blah." That's
No,
not true at all. I'm
no,
somebody
no, it's
who,
not.
yeah, who struggled and missed out on so many great things because I was always struggling. And now I'm able to like see opportunities and I'm happier. So it's a positive thing. But creating the excitement and the value around it can set them up for like a brighter financial future. And try to watch your words if you're parents at home. Stop saying money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford this. There's other ways you can word it to where you can say like, hey,
Mhm,
we need to see the value in this and we don't
mhm,
need it. We don't need it. Why wouldn't we invest or save for the future? So just the language changes can help. But if like you're not somebody who grew up educated, who wasn't taught properly, like there's so many videos online that you can go and just learn about
yeah.
this, because it's pretty cool once you see like how the compounding interest works and how you can make money while you sleep and you can have it work for you is amazing. And I always try to tell people like, if you want to really get excited about money, maybe you create a business and maybe you decide to give a percentage of the business either to a charity or you try to give it to your parents, whatever you're very passionate about. And I think that extra, just that push can motivate you to make more money, because then it's more money you pay to your parents or a struggling family member or a charity. So I think it's always good to have another thing involved that motivates you. So it's not all about you. Because if you're like the only owner of it, everything goes to you, like, wouldn't it be better to be like, I need to make more money so I can pay my parents more money, or this charity more money,
That's right.
or
Or
so
your
it's a
workforce.
it's a positive motivation.
Yeah.
And also partnership LLCs,
Mm-hmm.
multi-member LLCs tend to get audited less. So just a fact.
Let's say that one more
So it's a
time
benefit.
so say that one more time so that impact hits the audience. Say that one more time.
Multi-member LLCs, like more than one person,
Yep.
have a lower audit risk than
Gotcha.
single member LLCs.
Gotcha.
So throwing your parents on there or struggling family member can motivate you, but also reduce your audit risk.
No, that's
My
good.
dad's a CPA, so I know
Yeah.
all these
Yeah,
crazy
no, that's
things.
good to know. Well, my dad, well, he's an accountant, by trade, and he
So is mine.
yeah, and he took over the family business after college. So it's it's good that we're fortunate to have fathers that that can guide us and
Yeah.
field those questions to the best of their ability. So I think it's great. You were going to say something? Sorry.
Oh no, I was saying, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know,
And then something that I really, jumped out at me was in your chapter 3, and you talk about fuck fear, have faith, and you live in faith and let go of fear, and really it's all throughout the chapter. So I'm just going to name some highlights, and because I want to hear your thoughts on it. You know, and who cares what they think? You talk about that on page 54 and page 57. You have and through 58, actually 57 through 59, you have a great summary of basically, to F the fear. I think, within my life coaching career and with clients, I've had this happen to myself because I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? And what I've been gripped by at times has been analysis paralysis. So you tend to overthink things, and it really just you think you're getting stuff done, but in actuality you're not. And that's when you get stuck. And that becomes that procrastination that sometimes just keeps taking years and years and years and years. You write about this. I want to hear more of your experience with it, how you saw the light, and how you speak to people outside of the book to move past that.
okay, so to move past fear.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, fear is just the unknown of something that hasn't happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you knew that's what happened and that was the fact, you wouldn't be so fearful because you knew exactly how it turned out. Also, 99% of the stuff that we're fearful of or worry about never happens. So if you look back in your life, and I think everyone can document this, think about the times when you were about to lose your shit. You were freaking out that you wouldn't get the right apartment, you wouldn't get the right job, you would run out of money, whatever it is, or the person would break up with you, and maybe they did. You turned out fine.
Mm-hmm.
And you look back and probably say, I'm so glad that it didn't work out the way I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So fear is just that. You don't know what's going to happen, and all it's doing is bringing more of that energy to you. So it's more likely to delay you, procrastinate you, and just you're not living in a high vibration to bring in more positive things. So I had a situation last night. I woke up at 3 a.m. and my
You
head was
nervous
spinning.
about the show?
No,
No,
well, of
I'm just
course,
kidding.
I'm
No,
like,
I'm
I have to
kidding.
sit with Greg. I'm so
I'm,
nervous.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So I'm working on a project, which I'll announce soon. And I have, there's a lot of people involved. There's, marketing people, writers, all these people, not writers, but like marketing people, deck designers, all this stuff. And I just felt like some of the communication lines weren't exactly clear. And I just was panicking. And I remember being wide awake going, oh my gosh. And then I that thought came in. I said, everything always turns out when you're anxious about how somebody's reacting to something, you don't like something in a contract, you feel like you're not totally in the loop on everything. Everything always works out. once you have that communication. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to go back to sleep with that negative stuff. I'm going to say, you know what? It always works out. I'm frustrated now because there's unknown.
Mm.
So I just said, nope, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to address it tomorrow and it's going to be great. And what happened? I got on that call before this show, and turns out everything was exactly how it should be. We cleared up any errors, lack of communication, and everything's fine. So I could have kept myself spinning all night in the
Mm-hmm.
fear of the unknown of what would happen and all the things that could go wrong. But instead, I'm like, no, that does me no good
Yeah.
and it is gonna be fine. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, it was. So that's why it's like the fear. And also, you mentioned like not caring what people think. This was something that kept me paralyzed for so long, especially in comedy,
Mm-hmm.
where I cared so much what
Oh,
people
yeah.
thought and I wasn't taking those chances. You have to realize that not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody likes Jesus, and he's Jesus.
Yeah.
So you have to just be a good person and do what you got to do. And if people don't like you, unless you've done something personally vindictive to them, it's not your problem.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's a good point, because you get inside your head, and
Yeah.
especially, with comedy does that. And I was guilty of that in part of, my career too. And it's just let it go. Just let it all go. Which leads me into, speaking about letting it go, and you mentioned Jesus. We're both people that, have faith. We don't impose it on people. It's something that works for me.
Yeah.
And people know that about me, and you. But what I really like is, it's time to step into faith.
Hmm.
And, a lot of people speak about, oh, I have faith, I have faith. But are you giving that faith energy? Are you
Yeah.
leaning into it? Are
Yeah.
you working on it? And, I think that if you are faith filled, a lot of faith talks about laying your fears at the foot of the Lord. Um, when you talk about faith, I have something pulled up here on page 71. This is what I'm going to read it verbatim.
Okay.
It said, finally, remember, life's tests are sometimes hardest right before the breakthrough. It is up to you to keep your faith. It's okay to cry. It's okay to doubt. And it's okay to disagree. Faith is strong enough to withstand all of it. God will see you through the path that is best for you. It's been
I've
said
got
a
a
thousand.
very, very interesting story behind that sentence.
Go for it.
So that was added after that chapter was done.
Okay.
I went back and did that. As I was working on the book, I started to feel like I was falling apart all
Mm.
over again. And I couldn't figure it out. And I'm going, no, I know all the reasons. Like, I'm writing a self-help book. I know how to do this. What is going on? And I remember that, kind of remembering that sometimes like life is the hardest before the biggest breakthrough, because it is a true test of your faith and how much you actually want it. But I was able to, for me, it was directly correlated to a vitamin deficiency and my thyroid not working and
Hmm.
testosterone back in the trash again. So I was able to fix that. Um, but I know, like, sometimes when you're about to have the biggest breakthrough of your life and everything that you wanted is going to happen, is sometimes the biggest test. And you're going to feel like everything's actually falling apart. But are you going to stay in faith? And that was something I had to go back and add, because
Mm.
I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm supposed to be a master at this. I'm a self-help
Yeah.
expert, blah, blah, blah. But because I had the tools and the tricks and had grown, I was able, instead of falling apart and running to a doctor to mask my issues behind an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety, I knew there was something more going on. And that's when I went to a private practice doctor, which I also talk about in the book and put
Hmm.
in, to get your body checked, because I thought it was very important, because there's so many people that, especially that we know in comedy,
Yeah.
that run and they spend all this money on therapy and they're doped up on anti-anxiety and antidepressants. And I think that probably half of them don't need to be on it.
Yeah.
And I think it could simply come down to the hormone levels, your vitamin D levels, your thyroid levels. Like, that was something for me. So if you're feeling shitty, like, my first recommendation is like, get a full panel from a private practice
Yes.
doctor. The insurance companies limit what doctors can do.
Hmm.
So they're going to tell you you're fine. And you're probably not fine. But this was
Yeah.
a true story for me. And that's why I went back and put the hormone stuff in the book too,
Yep.
because it's like I wasn't falling apart. I didn't have depression. I knew I was strong and I had these skills, and that's why I wanted to put them out into a book. But I also felt like maybe I was being tested of like, how strong are you? And how
Mm.
much can you actually believe what you're practice what you preach, so to say. And so I had to put that was something that was added at the very end.
Okay. No, well, thanks for
Hmm.
sharing that, because you probably were
Yeah.
being tested, and it
Yeah.
led to you opening up even more. Because
Yeah.
how many times especially in entertainment, and I think a lot of the world doesn't need the medication that's being
No,
sent out to them.
absolutely
I
not.
really don't. I mean, we all have, we talk about mental issues. We all have something. We all do, physical or mental. But I think, how many people do? Whenever I hear people that I have to roll my eyes when I hear people that don't go for yearly physicals or blood work. I'm like, what are you doing? Do you want to get
It's
knocked out of the game?
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want to get knocked out of the game of life over something that you could have avoided pretty easily just by
And
getting checked?
yeah, and I want to talk about that though real quick too,
Yeah,
is
of
that
course.
unfortunately our insurance companies, like, they limit the doctors of what they can do, which is unfortunate. So a lot
Hmm.
of doctors have pulled out and are doing private practice. And I know that seems like crazy and like, oh my gosh, it must be so much money, blah blah blah.
Mm.
It's not. It is absolutely not. How much it costs me to get all my blood work ran, like all of it, and all the tests that insurance covers, the insurance will cover. And then the other ones are out of pocket. Between her visit, all the blood work, and then I ended up having pellets put in to me, to push up my testosterone, which was a big issue
Oh,
for me because it
okay.
was like in the gutter.
Mm.
um that whole process was like, for everything, private practice was like $700 or like $650. It was nothing.
Yeah.
That's like 3 sessions of therapy
Yeah.
and like years of antidepressants when nothing was wrong with my mind. It was my body wasn't functioning. So I always tell people, make that investment. If you need somebody to talk to, that's great. And if you're still feeling shitty after you do this, then maybe you do need an SSRI, and that's great too.
Hmm.
But you should always go this route
Yeah.
before, because you're wasting your money and your time. I don't go to therapy because I don't need it.
Hmm.
Um there's other people that do benefit from it. And I
Hmm.
have friends that I'm like, have you had your hormones tested? Have you had your hormones tested? And finally they went, and sure enough, they found out that like they had all these deficiencies. They're getting them fixed. Should take about 4 weeks. And they might be able to reduce the money they're spending on therapy.
I think it's great. That's
Yeah.
it's it's powerful, that when you reach a point
Yeah.
and you give back to the world, how it comes back tenfold, and you show by example and exactly what you're doing. You want people to feel better,
Yeah.
be open and listening, because I think there's so much in this world that everyone wants a left click fix, and
Hmm.
it's just not that way. You got to dig deep. Like
You
David
do.
Goggins, like David Goggins says that all the time, and you hear all these motivational people over the years, and you've got to dig deep. There's work to be done,
Hmm.
but it can be so fruitful and so freeing, to that. So I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so you know, let's bring it back to you know more with the book, and a couple more minutes of your time with time to lighten the F up. I like to say time to lighten the fuck up, because seriously, it's you talk about people being offended, and we hear this in our daily life in the world, and people, and especially with spoken word, and we're professionals in that, people really sometimes get offended. Now we read the room, we understand what not to say and what to, because we're good people. We're not filthy, it's not dirty all the time. Sometimes you just have to say certain things to accentuate a point. But we've spoken before, there are some people in this world that get more offended on language than the the opioid concern or war. And I'm like, it's a word. What is
Right.
your method, and what do you say to people about how to really stop being offended by words, and let's get to real business of life and humanity?
Well, the first thing I want to say about being offended is, when you are offended, notice what happens to your body, right? Like you go into this fight or flight mode.
Hmm.
So, which raises like your stress levels and your
Yeah.
cortisol, which is actually aging you and could potentially kill you.
Yeah.
So, when you're offended, it's like it's personally affecting you. And also you have to choose to be offended by that. So most of the time when we're offended by something, it's not something that directly happened to us, right? It's just something maybe we heard a comedian say, or we heard it on TV, or we heard it in passing, but it's really not about you. So stop personalizing things and stop giving those words power. If you don't like those words, the quickest way to have them lose power is to not have them affect you.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, just shut it off or walk away. But being offended is a personal choice. That's
Yeah.
what I've noticed in my life.
Mhm.
And we're both comedians, and a lot of comedians are very on edge right now, being
Yeah.
afraid to say certain things so they can't actually tap into their true authentic art.
Yeah.
And comedy is in danger. And so I think it's important, like if you are going into a comedy club and you're easily offended, that's probably not the right place for you. And if you are at a comedy club and you do find yourself feeling offended, just remember that most of these jokes have been done 50 to 100 times, because they need to be, they're written, they're prepared. They're not about you, because that comedian didn't even know you were in the audience. So for you to kind of personalize it and be like, well, I'm offended by this, and make it all about you, is kind of a narcissistic thing.
Yeah.
So just remember, like, if you want to stay healthy and positive and live in a high vibration, the less offended you are, the more you're going to just lighten the fuck up and have a
Yeah.
much more joyous existence.
Yeah.
If you don't like something, we're all offended by certain things that happen to us. We can't control what other people do, but we
Yep.
can control how we react to it. So stop reacting.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's all good points. And the world, there's so much of the world is based about what they feel, as opposed to being empathetic toward other people. There's just no benefit of the doubt. And people are just miserable at times inside, and that's just, we should just be honest. Some people are just miserable and just shouldn't even leave the house. And
yeah, and those people need to read my book more than anyone else on the planet. No, everybody needs to read my book, but
everyone does. I recommend it. Madison, I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm just and thanks for spending time with me in New York, and you're over there in Denver, Colorado. Have you learned to ski yet? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Every time I'm going to go up to the mountains, I somehow I'm like, Florida sounds better. And then I go to the beach.
Yeah. Right. No, that's great. So this is my friend Madison Malloy, a self-help guide with a side of humor. It's time to lighten the fuck up, everybody. It really, truly is. And Madison, give everyone, the audience, where they can find you on social media, where they can purchase the book, and anything that you have coming up that you want to convey to the audience.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you can find me on social media. Instagram and TikTok is Real Madison Malloy. Twitter, Madison Malloy. I have a website, madisonmalloy.com. I'm pretty easy to Google. You can just find stuff there. But yeah, the book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookie, Goodreads, pretty much kind of all the book sites. And also it is most recently available on Audible. So if you don't like to read, which I'm guilty of myself, I like to listen to audiobooks because I can do it at the gym or walking the dog. The book is now available on audio. So you can check that out on Audible, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. They're putting it everywhere. My publisher is great. So
that's great.
Yeah, check that out. Definitely follow me on Instagram. I've got a link tree there with like all the links there. And I'm posting like kind of self-help tips and videos that people can watch. And so, and reach out, my contacts on my website. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you need a keynote speaker, contact me or Greg.
Yeah, right.
We both do it.
Maybe we'll do it together. We'll start our own tour and just Perfect. Do it this way and save one corner of the country at a time. So
exactly.
We'll do that soon. We'll get something together. But I want to thank you. I wish you continued success. I love that you've taken this risk and chance within yourself to make yourself vulnerable, even more vulnerable, and put this out there to try to help other people. And that's what people know me is all about. It's about humanity. So thanks for spending time with me and sharing your insight and spreading light into the world. So thank you for that, and continued success.
Yeah, Madison you're welcome. Malloy, and thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. You got to come on my podcast next to Madison. Oh yeah, I have a podcast too next to Madison.
Yeah,
Business self-help.
I have watched that and it's great. So yeah, I recommend people check that out for sure as well. So that's great. So you just stay healthy out there in Colorado. I hope to see you in person really soon. So there's
Yeah.
Madison Malloy, everybody. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks.
So before I head out, everybody, I just want to thank my sponsors again. That's Quail Auto Sales, which my family owns since 1943. That's Coach Me Greg, my professional coaching services. Swag Island Tees, my buddy Ed Stevens. And also Next Evolution Media, my friend Bobby Chase, filmmaker and editor. He could do all your corporate and personal stuff. So, and I mentioned before, all those links to those businesses can be found in the comments below. So until next time, I'm Greg Aidala, and we'll thanks for spending more time with me. It's been a fun year with this show. So I thank everyone for all their support. So that's my time, everybody. I'm Greg Aidala. We'll see you next time.